Hey folks, Johnny my Woodsman. I'm going to do a little video here and show you my DIY upgrades on my 12-foot ProAngler kayak. And I got a new YakAttack reel holder, because the one I had that came with the kayak 3 weeks ago ended up in the bottom of the lake because it fell out. So I bought a new reel, and I didn't want that going in the drink, so I ended up buying a nice, dependable rod holder that works really well. So I guess I'll move the camera. Start out with the battery. I made the battery box, not the box, I painted it, but I decided to make a power bank out of it because they're, you know, those big solar power banks, they're a couple, $200-300 for a decent one. And this way here, it's multi-purpose, and it runs my trolling motor, so best of both worlds. But let me get around here, I'll show you what I got. Okay, this is my battery box. I'll zoom out a little bit so you can better have it, size of it. It's got a Duracell Marine Deep Cycle 35 amp hour battery in it. It was like $95. The case was $12. The switch was $12. The charging station was $12, and the switch was like $5.50. So do the math on that. But what I did is I put a switch on it, so because this QC 3.0, it's a smart charge because I got the Galaxy S10 Plus phone, and this has got the smart charge in it. Well, I put it on this switch. If I don't have it on that switch, it's going to drain my battery. So, you know, when I'm not using it, I don't want to have this lit up like that 24/7. So now I can, the battery's hardwired with all the wiring on the kayak's 10 gauge wire with plugs. Everything's plug and play, and that's not going to use any juice if I don't have the trolling motor plugged in. So if I shut this off, then it kills the power to that. So it worked out pretty good. It was a cheap fix, pretty easy install. Only took me about a half an hour wadding all the wires up in there and wrapping them up right and putting all the connectors and stuff on. So let me show you the plug-in I got. I'm gonna try to do this all on the tripod, but I don't know, moving around these two kayaks can be difficult. What we did is we ran the wiring through the kayak, through this part of the kayak, all the way back from the trolling motor up to here, and we put these plugs in here like that, so that all we got to do when we want to use the trolling motor, plug it in. When we get done, unplug it. And then I also bought a battery tender for it, a 2 amp, and this just plugs into the charger, this pigtail. That way I don't, when it's warm out, I don't have to take it out of the garage. But like this morning, it was 33, 34 degrees, and we actually had snow flurries again this morning about 10 o'clock, believe it or not. Welcome to Michigan. So we leave them in the house when it's cold like that at night. It's not like a car that you drive and you start and it charges every day. You know, if it sits and sits, it isn't good. So that's that. Whoops, sorry about that. I got me a little dock pole, which stores inside the kayak really nice, and it makes a good backup and a real good fishing pole for on the river camping. So you don't have to bring a full-size pole and handle it and mess around storing it. And then I'm working my way back to the trolling motor. This is the, well, there's some shoddy camera work. I put line on all new line on all my reels. I try to do that every year. This is the YakAttack mount. It's really nice. You got a release, double release here to get it to come off, and then the stud stays on here, and that just loosens. You move it on the track wherever you want it. When you're going to put it back on, wherever you angle you want, you put it there. It's locked. If you want to move it, you push it the opposite way, and it just turns, but it won't come off until you let go of that button, and then it locks again. It's not going to go nowhere, and it's double adjustable, so it gets it right back here by me. Let me put this seat down. Show you the nuts and bolts of my mounting kit for the Kayak trolling motor. Let me get you off the tripod here. Okay, bear with me, I don't have a tripod, so I'm not used to, I don't know how folks can record without a tripod. Anyway, I put these turnbuckle in here. Runs up to the mount, which is a treated 2x4 that I painted, and then I put a plate down here, which you probably can't barely see, where it mounts so it doesn't keep digging into the wood and wearing it out. Move my cooler. And then I put another turnbuckle on the back side, so that keeps it rock solid back and forth. There's no issue whatsoever. It's basically 1.25 inches PVC, but you gotta remember that's ID, not OD. I think it's like 1 3/8 inches. But there's an 8-inch piece of PVC straight that runs down in here that we had to V-wedge out so we get to drive it in there. Got a 45 and 90, and I call these a cross union, I guess. I'm not sure the technical term of it. With the long bolts with the big washers, and it seals it from water. And we go on the river, we just take the bolt out, pull the 2x4 off the mount, and then all you have is this here on the Kayak left, so you ain't got really nothing to get hung up on. And it works pretty good. And then on this side, I don't know if I can reach it. I can try. There's the plug for the trolling motor. So you just flip that up, and you plug the trolling motor in there. And you're ready to go. So there's no exposed wires that's running through the Kayak to get snagged on fishing gear or what have you, you know. We both, well, Adrian's did his too. We tried to keep it as clean as possible. So then I can come up here before I put the boat in the water. And plug this one in. And the trolling motor should be ready to rock. Let's see. Yep, there we go. All 5 bars. It's a Newport vessel, so they specialize in Kayak trolling motors, because it's only got a 24-inch shaft instead of the 30-inch shaft that you normally find in most big box stores. So there's no modifying it or nothing. It was perfect. I mean, it worked perfect for this. And it works really good. It's got the extendable handle, so when I'm sitting in my seat, I can actually just rest my hand on here, my right hand. And then when I'm done, just unplug it, put the cap back on to keep the water out. I did use dielectric compound in all my plugs and on all my plugs to keep the moisture out and to keep a good contact. It's always a good idea to use dielectric compound. You can buy little tubes of it at the park store. They use it, it's really popular for spark plug boots. So let me put this camera up here. So that's it. That's the new mods for 2020. Yeah, maybe July, maybe I'll get a fish finder. I really don't need one. Adrian's got one on his kayak, so I mean he can guide me in the right direction if we're, you know, fishing within distance. We are getting some radios so we can communicate from across, you know, from the other sides of the lake. We took them out 3 weeks ago, I think it is now, and Sunday it was 3 weeks, and it was a windy day, pretty darn windy actually, and most of the lake was, I don't know, we fished for probably half an hour, 45 minutes, And then we decided to go around the whole lake. I've never been around this whole lake before because I didn't really feel like I was being lazy. Didn't really feel like paddling for 3 hours to get around it. So we set the motor. I set the motor on 1 speed, and it goes about, according to the GPS, it was running about, in the wind, it was running about 1.4 mile an hour. On high, it was only doing about 7-ish, but like I said, the wind, there was the boat action out there, and then the water was splashing over the front of the kayak. It was porpoising a little bit, so it was moving right along faster than I can paddle, I know that. And anyway, we took an hour and a half, yeah, a good hour and a half to get around that lake. Then we came home, and all 5 lights were still lit on my kayak. I put it on the charger, and it was still 90% charged after 3 hours of operation. So it's gonna last a couple days for fishing on and off, easy. So I'm pretty happy about it. I'll try to put a list of pricing in the video so you kind of got an idea. I know the trolling motor was on sale for like 120 bucks. I got that in February for my birthday. The battery was like 95. The case was like 12. The plugs in the outlets were about 30 bucks for each kayak. So about 30 bucks for the kayak, just for the outlets and the plugs, because of the 10 gauge wire. And then heat shrink tubing, solder, because we soldered the joints, heat shrink everything, so there's nothing exposed to the elements. So it should be pretty straightforward and not have to worry about corrosion and bad connections, because there's nothing worse than being out in a boat and your trolling motor quits, or or you got to try to hunt it down, track it down. So worked out pretty good. So anyway, I'm gonna go run some errands. It's a beautiful day after all. It's about 40, so it's not too shabby. And hope you had a good weekend. Hope all you good moms out there had a great Mother's Day. And take care, and God bless.